I do not support corruption.
Mr. President, it is always said that context is important. And the discussion we're having here today, there must be some context that is placed, many of which my Senate colleagues and my opposition colleagues in particular have spoken to. One of those, as was highlighted by Senator Longmore, is the context of where we stand with our energy provider. The simple fact that it is a monopoly and has chosen to act as such with the citizens for many years. But in addition, that it has started to act like a monopoly with the government as well. I have observed that the minister is finding it difficult, even sometimes, to get the necessary information, and seem to be begging a meeting with some of his pronouncements, with the unfortunate approach from the JPS as if, since they are the king, they do as they feel and how they feel. It might seem funny to some who are political opponents, but it's a risk to the country if the JPS thinks it acts on its own accord and answers to no one. And that has given me great concern, because JPS, with the motive of profit, would therefore, I would suggest, prioritize profit centers in its rehabilitation processes. I'm speaking just on the knowledge of how profit seekers normally act, Senator Bunty. But there have been areas before that JPS had intended to close the entire area because of theft, not considering those who are willing to pay in those areas. Now you can blame burial. But also you may delay that area until last. And some of those who are legitimate paying customers, South Manchester might be so. And then it might not be just theft, just the number of persons, the total usage of kilowatts. JPS then says there's greater profit to be gained to prioritize A, B, or C. So that is why rural electrification became very important.
It became permanent.
Because it needed to build out that set of individuals that would not have gotten the access. Another context is the importance of electricity. They said many of us here would not know about 1988 and the realities of 1988. But the dependence on energy were not the same in 1988. So even if it took multiple weeks, the displacement was not equal. And I find great disrespect in an advertisement from the JPS that have stated that you soon get back to your TikTok, as if that is the central concern. I can speak to many small chicken farmers that have lost their chicken due to no ability to freeze it. 60 chicken, 80 chicken spoiled. And persons may say, why don't give it away? Well, they only can give away enough to cook that day, because nobody has the ability to store. And that has caused for many to be incapable to restart, because all they had been lost. There are others, Senator Abka, who should have killed the birds at 6 weeks, that have kept them alive to 9 weeks with the expense of feeding them.
Huge bird.
And then those birds are not as tender. They are moving to turkey status. And the coop that should have generated a turnover to where their new birds is 3 weeks to catch back to school at 6 weeks.
Yes.
That coop,
You know the thing.
cannot be used.
You know the thing.
In addition, there are some who are egg farmers.
I don't know none of them.
Whose birds, yes, you know none of them. To lay effectively must eat for 16 hours.
Yes.
And so the bird eats when the light is on. Presume it's time to sleep when the light is off.
So they're constantly sleeping now?
And not eating. The newspaper has reported that the layer industry has lost up to 30% of performance, not due to death by hurricane,
If he who feels it
but due to electricity outage, which is reducing eating time, temperature control. And then there's some elderly who depends on refrigeration for their medicine.
Yes, yes.
So an ad that say you soon get back to TikTok.
It's trivializing.
I don't reach the bartenders whose liquor that was on ice on the fridge has now been spoiled. And some of us here with a little savings won't understand how impossible it is for these day-to-day survivors to restart when they lose their one-day effort. And so when I hear this, you soon get back to TikTok, it hurts me because it shows that these people have limited understanding of the impact and importance of the people who have a bar.
thousands of people.
But also those who had planned their own robins. And buy up stuff and promote and pay for advertisement. And it cannot be held in some places even today. I visited St. Elizabeth yesterday and was invited particularly to an area called Crawford Mountain for some reasons unknown to me. There was still falling poles and falling lines. Not just a lack of electricity, but the dangers. There was still blown off zinc itching up on some wires. And I am not going to buy the argument that we transfer the blame to the worker. Oh, they're putting in effort. I have seen all the workers putting in effort, but the decision of how much workers is not the workers' decision. Nor the remuneration that would encourage workers to participate. And before the president asks what that have to do with the bill, solar speaks as well to grid participation. Because there is now a motivation among many for grid separation, that we cannot depend at my farm and at others on the grid. So we should now invest in solar. And not only invest in solar, which at my original investment was what you call grid tie, but now go to total separation, which means batteries. Indeed, Senator Bunting, we need to understand the total direction of the government so that we can analyze the first step. The first step needs to be analyzed in the general strategy. Our athletes are now at the Olympics to deal with it in the way that we have always dealt with it. Speedily and not JPS lights. They don't need batteries. But in an 800 meter, there is a first step strategy that is different from a 100 meter. And you can critique the first 10 meter if it's a 800 because you're saying why they're running so slow or running so fast, knowing what the total is. To put something as a first step without the total, we don't know what is going on, because we don't know if it's 100 and it should be full speed, or if it's 800 and it should be chuckling and watching, or if it's 5,000. It is just being put in front of us here in a piecemeal way. And this piecemeal way calls for us to wonder if this is the first step, how far is the government considering to go? Because net metering would create greater buying than net billing. If there is a fair price at net metering, it also creates great savings because the battery component is the most expensive part of the entire investment. The storage is a more expensive venture than the production. But with that, Senator Bunting has made a very important intervention. The average fixed cost changes when those who are able to afford remove themselves from the grid. So there's the variable component of the energy consumed and the fixed component of the grid maintenance. The problem, Senator Scott Matley, is that the grid maintenance isn't averaged by the individual, one come off and one stay on. It is averaged by the kilowatt usage. So when the large ones come off, each one is equivalent to thousands of small ones. And there is now, as you said, great motivation, especially with LNG, and they're going around and seeking clients. There's great motivation from the hotels. There's great motivation from the food operators. And there's also great motivation from homeowners who are with. The other concern, therefore, is how do we ensure either access to grid separation for those who are of lower income, or maintain grid participation for those who are of higher income. And this bill don't differentiate nor separates that. But instead, it gives a continued approach of curtailing instead of encouraging. There is a current thing with net billing that limits you, Senator Bunting, I think, to 100 kilowatt if you are a company, and then even less if you are a household. The third context is the institutions that are important. I can speak to Linstead Hospital, who was without electricity for almost 2 weeks.
Where is Linstead Hospital?
It's in Northwest St. Catherine, the bastion of the People's National Party. But not only was it without electricity, they had to borrow a generator. From wait, you know about it?
Yes.
It was only me.
I was surprised.
Okay. They had to borrow a generator. And also had to close some offerings because the generator wasn't to size to sustain all those areas.
Loyal viewers and subscribers, honorable people, give thanks for your support to the Avenue. Know that I appreciate you sincerely. New viewers, welcome on board. Know that your presence is appreciated. Please subscribe to the channel and help us reach 1,000 subscribers. Thank you. United we win.